Hi, my name is Steve Nemeroff. I'm a solutions engineer at Autodesk. I generally cover production tracking and capture. So these are two different programs that are in our production management and review capabilities wheelhouse. So production tracking, in particular flow production tracking, formerly ShotGrid or Shotgun. If that name rings a bell, great. If it doesn't, that's okay. I'm going to walk you through um, the core functionality and show you how production tracking can really help streamline team communication. You should be able to see my screen. Okay, there we go. So as I said, I cover flow production tracking. It's a production management tool that we offer from Autodesk, and I'll explain what that means. So whenever you're starting a new production, new project, no matter whether you're using flow production tracking or not, you have a lot of data that's going in a lot of different directions. Things that are going to different tools, you're putting data in different places, and it gets pretty complicated pretty quickly. If you're working on a single project and the project is pretty simple and you have a small team, this might not be an issue. But as soon as things get a little bit more complicated, you might want a tool like flow production tracking to work as a hub where you're placing all the information in one place. So flow production tracking is a collaboration tool. It helps teams collaborate by allowing teams to see all of the info in the same place. Flow production tracking is a browser-based tool. We essentially have a database and backend and we surface that data in a bunch of different ways, depending on the context that you're in and what you're trying to accomplish with the tool. And we make it really, really flexible and easy to customize, depending on needs of any particular project. So I'm going to just dig into what it looks like. There we go. Okay, so this is my project dashboard. You can see I've got a couple of different projects. I'm going to go into the one of my projects now, and I created this dashboard of my project to show what's generally happening currently. And this is it's what's called the canvas page. So these are all widgets that are customizable, and I can customize this however I want. I can surface whatever data I need to show the things that are relevant to me on this project. And then I can switch to this view. So this is a little bit more like a spreadsheet. I've got a bunch of different assets that I'm building for my project. And I can customize this page to show the columns that are the most relevant to me in my role. I can also see, you can see those color-coded columns in the middle, and those represent tasks that need to be done to complete the assets that are in my project. Things like art, modeling, rigging. And I can assign those tasks to different people and set due dates. I can also update the statuses. And this way I can share this info with my team and everyone knows what the status is. Part of the beauty of production tracking is it's really, really flexible. So I can really set up this structure however I need, depending on the project. If the entities that we use by default don't quite fit the mold of what I need for a particular project, I can change the names of them, or I can enable additional custom ones. And you can really customize the fields as well. So you can choose what information is the most important for everything in your project. And here's what scheduling looks like in flow production tracking. So you can see there's a Gantt chart on the right-hand side, and that Gantt view allows me to really quickly schedule tasks using an interactive drag and drop interface. I can set up task dependencies to easily build out the whole schedule using task templates that I define in advance. So I set up a task template that says I need to do all of these individual steps in this order, and here's roughly how long each task takes. And then I can set a start date for that layout task, which is the first task in my workflow. And it sets all of the dates for the tasks that follow, because I'm using those task templates to make it really easy to set up a basic schedule for my entire project. And in this case, I defined all those steps. I defined how long they take. I defined those dependencies. And then I can already see how that applies on each asset basis and across the show. And then I can easily make adjustments to those, move things around, maybe some take longer or shorter, and I can quickly get a rough schedule for the entire show. But this can be a little bit tedious or a little bit complicated on a larger show. It's not always the easiest to see if the schedule that you're designing makes sense. And of course, once I've done all this work and the tasks are on the schedule with start dates and due dates, what often happens is something changes. Maybe you have a new delivery date, or assets that you need aren't going to be ready on time, so you won't be able to begin certain tasks on time. Maybe my deadline has changed completely. Something has blown up the schedule. So I just need to start moving some things around. And this can become a really overwhelming job that gets complicated really quickly. we found that production personnel can spend a ton of time modifying the schedule just to make it workable, especially if you have a lot of tasks and a lot of start dates and due dates. Adjusting each one is a kind of a manual, time-consuming process. It's something that we see folks that work in production, folks that are in management doing all the time, and it's often not only is it manual, but it takes a lot of brain power to get there. And of course, the more times that you have to do this, the more things that change. Not only does that suck up your time, at a certain point you hit a wall and you don't really want to make changes. Makes production kind of painful. So we said, what if there was a better way? What if there was a tool that you could use where using machine learning technologies, you could adjust that schedule. You could actually have it adjust the schedule for you. It would tell you what needs to be changed based on the new constraints to your schedule. Maybe you just have a large, complex project and you need to build your initial schedule, and there's too many tasks to make sense to do it manually. So that's what we built. We call it Flow Generative Scheduling. It's a new capability built on Flow, which is the media and entertainment platform that Autodesk has been designing to help facilitate communication end to end from start to finish, both within your company walls and outside the company. It's a new tool that's built and it's available with Flow Production Tracking. It comes free with your existing Flow Production Tracking subscription. So if you get Flow Production Tracking, you have access to generative scheduling. And it's a pretty cool capability. I'm excited to show you that. So this is what generative scheduling looks like. And you can see the schedule and the tasks that are in my schedule. And it looks pretty familiar. It looks a lot like Flow Production Tracking. You can see dependencies from one task to the next. You can see where they land on the Gantt chart. And then here's a slightly different view. This is our resourcing plan. So it's showing the peaks and valleys and the number of people that need to be tasked to accomplish what's on the schedule. Now, peaks and valleys are the worst possible thing for anybody that's in management, because the last thing that you want, is to need 20 people one day, 12 people the next, maybe 16 people the day after that. So what Flow Generative Scheduling does is it tries to automatically level out those peaks and valleys, shifting tasks around to create as much consistency across the resourcing as possible. So the way that we do this is by adding what are called constraints. These are requirements like start no earlier than or finish no later than. It can be on a whole project. It can be on individual elements within that project. And after I've set those constraints, I press generate, and it will do an initial pass for me. And now, once this is done generating, what you'll see when I switch back to my resourcing views, those peaks and valleys are really leveled out. There's no more ups and downs in the process. There we go. So we can look at on an individual department basis. It's all non-destructive, so we can compare to previous versions of our schedule. And there's a lot of different ways that we can visualize that resourcing flow and the throughput of people that we need in order to complete all of the tasks that are in my project. So part of what makes this super useful as a tool is that it can handle a bunch of different types of requirements for your schedule, not just a start and end date. So we give you some ways to adjust and shape the data so you can handle a lot of different scenarios. Like if you have teams that are rolling on gradually or other time or resource restrictions. And again, I can compare that schedule with my previous version of my schedule because this is all non-destructive and it saves each iteration. I can also get really granular with my constraints. Maybe I'm working on a show or a project that has multiple units like episodes, that sort of thing. And maybe each of those things have a different delivery date. Or in games where we have different levels and different delivery dates for each level, maybe I have specific needs for individual elements within the project, like individual shots or sequences. I can apply those constraints on whatever part of the project hierarchy I need, even on an individual asset, shot, or sequence. Or really any of the elements in production tracking that I've enabled. So those constraints can be based on dates. I could apply arbitrary priority values to rank the order of the tasks that I want my team to work on. And the next time I press generate, it will take those constraints and priorities into consideration. So like if I have an individual shot that I know I'm not going to get the assets that I need to start until a certain date, I can tell it, don't start that shot until that date. I can add as many as I need, and it keeps all of them in mind to give me the best possible schedule that it can based on them. So that's generative scheduling. It's a pretty neat tool. Now I'm going to move into the creative collaboration aspect of flow production tracking. Now, part of what is really powerful about production tracking in general is this tool has a bunch of different views and a bunch of different tools that are connected to it that are really geared for different roles in your project. So it makes it much more friendly for folks that maybe wouldn't want to be on the management side to be able to get in there and work within it, or keep their work up to date in it. So that way the entire project is staying on track, and it cuts out some middleman work too. So everybody's working off the same source of truth. Everyone is able to stay in sync. So part of this creative collaboration aspect of production tracking is the review pipeline. Faster reviews, more efficient reviews means that you're able to do more iterations in the same amount of time. You're able to increase the quality of the final product, and that's part of what's really powerful about production tracking. So what we have recently released, actually, last year we announced our intent to modernize and streamline the review experience in production tracking, and now we actually have done that. We have something called Creative Review. It's a new review experience. It's a new web player. It's based on the Open Timeline IO format, which is an open source format that conveys and represents editorial information. If you're familiar with any open source media and entertainment projects and advancements, this might sound familiar. If you're not, that's okay. But in general, we are very focused on also supporting open source standards, so that way we can interoperate better with other tools. So as part of this new review experience, which is now in a public beta, we have introduced some long-awaited modern review features that makes it, I think, a really solid contender as your new go-to player for creative review. So we have a new compare experience, which allows for A/B comparisons in different view modes like side-by-side, difference, opacity, wipe. We have more flexibility that's offered to users when you're selecting different versions to compare. So you're able to compare something with a past version, or you can swap between them. We've also revamped our annotations. So you're able to annotate using obviously customizable intuitive controls like color, size, and opacity. So you're able to draw over your media. The eraser mode's been completely revamped. We now support all the sort of the things that you come to expect in annotations. Undo, redo, hold and ghost annotations, which is really cool. So you're able to draw and have those annotations stay through as you scrub through the media. We've also added proper support for drawing devices and tablets. There's also a new note stream widget, which allows for richer, more configurable ways of displaying notes. So you're able to review the notes that are associated with media while you're also watching the media and annotating on it, and adding new notes maybe. So that new condensed view and the new detailed views that we have provide quick overviews and provide a way to easily see in-depth look at all of your notes. And that information is all super customizable in terms of what is displayed. So you can choose to have exactly what you need so you don't overwhelm the rest of your team, which is, again, I think one of the things that people generally really enjoy about production tracking is that you can really focus the views that you're creating and the pages that you're creating on the specific personas that will be using them. So you don't have to show more data than you need and overwhelm anybody, which I think is something that often happens with something like sending spreadsheets back and forth over email. So navigation's also revised, and Creative Review has a new version selector. We've got a bunch of new stuff. We also have something that's really exciting called the Live Sync capability. So Live Sync, it makes it really easy to create a shared review session that others can join that have access to your production tracking instance. They can join via an invite link, and it brings the convenience of like a traditional screening room to the web. So I think this is something that's definitely worth checking out. And the reason why I spend so much time highlighting this is because one of the real big benefits that we see from production tracking is we've merged the review experience with the actual production management experience. And why that's important is because in a visual project, the moment that you're reviewing it visually is when you're deciding that it's done. So having those things in the same place it turns out to be really powerful, and it's a really good efficiency boost to have it all unified. We also have something called an integrated flow production tracking panel, which is part of Toolkit, which I'll tell you about a little bit. But this panel is something that can be embedded within existing desktop creation tools, things like Maya 3ds Max and many others. And this is all an open source project that you can actually leverage in other tools as well, or you can build your own integrations. But that means that the creatives are able to actually see the notes from production tracking directly within their creation tool, which helps speed up that review process. As part of Flow, which I mentioned briefly, which is our media and entertainment platform initiative, we've been building something called connected workflows. So connected workflows are us looking at everything that's happening across an entire project and how can we connect data that wasn't connected before to help introduce new efficiencies and to help empower teams to work better together. And one of those first connected workflows that's available now is an artist workflow or artist-focused workflow called Animate in Context. And this workflow allows artists working within Maya to load the surrounding shots, which is pulled from production tracking, and it surfaces them directly in a timeline in Maya. So users can scrub seamlessly between the context and the live viewport, allowing them to easily make adjustments to their animation and see how those adjustments work in context. This is available now. It's as of the most recent dot version of Maya, which is .3, there's actually a demo mode where you're able to load a timeline and try this out, even if you don't have cuts available in production tracking yet, which is really cool. Production tracking can also be used to manage client and vendor relationships. So for vendors, we have a permission set that allows vendors to see the tasks that their team is assigned without seeing anything outside of their scope. And then for client reviews, we have some additional tools. So we have a couple different ways to handle our reviews. And as you saw, we have Creative Review, which is a new interactive review media tool. We also have something called the Review Notes app, which is great for if you have a large group of people that are all working together and one person is taking notes. This is a really fast way for them to be able to do that. So it empowers them to take notes across multiple assets at once. And then you can publish those and send a summary out to everybody that was in the session in a very easy and fairly intuitive interface, which is great. We also have something called the client review site. So you're able to send media via the client review site for external reviews. So that means for somebody that is not part of your production tracking instance, you could send them a link and it can be password protected, where they're able to review the media and annotate or give notes. I'll show you what that looks like. And as a client, that user could sign in, they can review that media, they can provide notes, they can approve versions, and all of that information is fed back into production tracking. So it's happening in real time, and your team is able to see the feedback as it's coming in. But that client is not required to actually be part of your production tracking instance. They don't have to navigate to it. They're able to just receive a quick email and jump straight in. So once you've been using production tracking for a while, you begin to collect some useful data about the current process of your project. And that's where we get into some of the tracking and reporting capabilities. So production tracking provides some visual graphs that can be customized to show all the information that you need. This dashboard is one that I created, but you can really customize it to show whatever you need. And you can have all of that relevant information in one place. And then I could dig deeper and I could find more information about maybe why a particular shot or a particular element of my project is on hold or not yet in progress. And we make it really easy to customize this so you could have different dashboards for the different personas, the different information in production tracking, for that matter, can be imported or exported using the CSV format. So we make it pretty easy to get data in and get data out in a variety of different ways. So one of the other things that's really cool about the way that reporting works is we can also do reporting on a on a micro level as well as a macro. So in this case, maybe I want to see, I've already predicted the amount of time that task will take, and I want to compare it to the actual time that it took. So I could have my artists or my team members log their time against particular tasks in production tracking. And then it would allow me to see whether or not we're staying on budget. And we could add custom fields with customer permissions, so only certain users can see that information. And you can build your own formulas using calculated fields to calculate that data within production tracking. So in this example, I have a field to show the standard daily rate for one of those tasks. And we've multiplied that number by the number of days worked so far. So I'm going to get a very quick actual cost estimate. So I've looked at a bunch of different ways that production tracking can help speed up project efficiency. But there's one element that ties it all together that allows production tracking to actually speed up more than just the production, but maybe multiple productions or the entire company. And that is automation. We allow you to extend the functionality using our APIs and external scripts. So you can really get this to do anything that you need. Now, I do know of a customer that has used this to help notify people when the coffee's ready. I don't necessarily recommend that, but if that's something you want to do, more power to you. We have two different APIs for developers to extend the functionality of production tracking. There's a REST API, which allows your developers to work in the programming language that's best for them. And of course, Python is a very accessible language that is easy to learn. We have some great resources for Python developers in particular too. So production tracking also allows you to create your own custom menu items that can trigger your own tools and scripts. So in this example, maybe this customer, the studio is writing their own tools that's helping with delivering media to the client. You can really build whatever you want, and it's a very easy way to integrate with the production tracking interface to customize some of that action. As I mentioned very briefly earlier, production tracking also has some integrations to get production tracking data inside of your creative tools beyond the animating context, which we showed earlier. So that your artists and your team can spend more time creating and less time hunting down the information. Out of the box, we have integrations with 3ds Max, Maya, Flame, Nuke, Photoshop, After Effects, Houdini, Mari, Unreal, Unity, and more. There's also a bunch of community integrations. As I mentioned briefly, we're very motivated to maintain open source projects and to leverage open source standards. And as part of that production tracking toolkit, which is what this is called, is primarily open source tools that you're able to leverage. And it's very modular, so you can build your own custom integrations. Or you can bring some of the existing integrations to other software. And that's what many of our community members have done. So there's a lot out there. And if this is something that's of interest, I definitely recommend taking a look and seeing what already exists. And yeah, I hope that it's helpful for you. And you can see some of the example apps that you're able to leverage within or alongside desktop creation tools on this slide. So there's like a loader, a publisher, and the actual panel itself. The panel is what I was showing you before that shows you the notes. The publisher allows you to publish media directly out of your creation tool into production tracking, including uploading the source files and uploading visual representations. So it's a pretty powerful tool that we've seen a lot of studios have great success with. And yeah, here's generally what it looks like. You can see I have a launcher, and I'm able to launch, in this case, it's Unreal, and I can load up my scene and pull media in from production tracking. And then I can also review the notes that exist on that scene, maybe on the model that I'm working on, and add the notes as needed, or respond to notes, or take action if those notes are something I need to do something about. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm curious if anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Steve, for this wonderful presentation. As of now, we don't have a question, but I would like to remind everyone that at the top of your screen, you can find the buttons to contact us, know more about our products and services, and also you can find there the list to our upcoming events, so our upcoming webinars. We also have classes there and our productivity tools, so you can check them out. And also, we want to encourage you to please help us take in the surveys so we can be always improving here. I wanted to thank Steve for helping us with this. Thank you so much for joining forces and helping us get this through. So thank you so much. In case you have any questions about any of what Steve just talked about, you can contact us. You can reply to the email that we'll send you after this webinar, or you can just click on the contact us button and we'll get you up and running. So if we don't have further questions, I would like to thank everyone for attending. And thank you, Steve. This was wonderful. Again, you will be receiving the on-demand recording for this webinar tomorrow at 1 p.m. And we'll also be posting this on our YouTube channel. So yeah, just reply to the emails that we'll send, or click on any of the call to action buttons that you have on your screen right now. And thank you. Thank you so much, Steve.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bye-bye, everyone.